In the oppressive silence of Xylos Prime, where the dense air whispered ancient secrets and the vast, desolate plains stretched to a horizon of 3 cold suns, Kael's life was a self-inflicted penance. Years ago, the weight of guilt from a military command that ended in disaster had pushed him to this hegemony Veldari forgotten outpost, a desert of rock and dust that mirrored the aridity in his soul. His days were a monotonous routine of survival and equipment maintenance, an attempt to drown memories in hard work and solitude. But the universe, whimsical and unpredictable, had other plans. One night, the still air of the colony was torn by a metallic roar that shook the very earth, a violent breach in the peace Kael had built. He barely had time to arm himself before rushing outside, his heart beating to the frantic rhythm of a war drum. An incandescent trail cut across the night sky, not like a stray meteor, but with the precise, uncontrolled trajectory of a crashing ship. It landed with an explosive impact a few kilometers from his dwelling, raising a cloud of dust and smoke that tinged the twilight. It was a sound Kael knew all too well, the sound of catastrophe and the end of his solitude. Kael moved with the cold efficiency of a veteran despite 5 years of self-imposed exile. His field pack and rifle were extensions of himself, his reflexes sharpened by a life of danger and split-second decisions. The smell of pine and burnt metal hung in the air as he plunged into the undergrowth, following the faint smoke trail that rose beyond the tree line. His military past, marked by an incident that cost him his career and the lives of 3 subordinates, still haunted him, but the solitude of Xylos Prime was his chosen penance, his refuge. Upon reaching the top of the hill, Kael saw the impact site. This was no meteor. An elegant oval ship had gouged the forest floor, its metallic hull shimmering with an odd iridescence under the setting sun. It was too small for a transport vessel, but it resembled the scout ships he'd seen in classified briefings years ago. "Hello," Kael called out, rifle ready as he approached. "Is anyone alive in there?" The ship bore no markings he recognized, its design unlike anything in Earth's fleet or known allied species. A crack ran down one of its sides, revealing a dimly lit interior. Kael's training took over. He circled the craft, checking for signs of threat before approaching the breach. The hatch had been forced from within. Blood or something akin to it stained the rim, a deep amber color that caught the dying light. Kael swallowed hard and plunged into the opening. The interior was cramped, barely large enough for a pilot and a small cargo area. The control console flickered with alien symbols he couldn't decipher, cycling through what appeared to be emergency protocols. In the rear compartment something stirred. Kael raised his rifle, finger resting beside the trigger. "Show yourself," he commanded, his voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through his veins. A low growl answered from the shadows, followed by faint, hissing breaths. Kael pulled the emergency light from his belt and illuminated the corner. What he saw made him lower his weapon immediately. Curled up in the cargo hold was what appeared to be a large feline. No, not a feline. The creature resembled a tiger cub, but its proportions were wrong, its head too angular, its ears pointed, and its black striped orange fur had an almost metallic quality where the light hit it. One of its front paws was clearly broken, and a gash ran across its flank, oozing that strange amber fluid. The creature's eyes met his, intelligent, fierce, and unmistakably frightened. They were an impossible shade of amber, almost luminous in the gloom. "Easy now," Kael whispered, holstering his weapon. "I won't hurt you." The creature bared its teeth, sharp, definitely predatory, but made no move to strike. It was too weak, its breathing laborious. It couldn't be more than the equivalent of a juvenile, whatever species it was. Kael's mind raced with possibilities. No terrestrial animal matched its description, and the frontier worlds harbored nothing similar. This was something else entirely, something alien and potentially dangerous. The smart thing would be to report it immediately, but that would mean contact with colonial authorities, questions about his past, and inevitably, the creature being taken for study. The cub growled again, but the sound morphed into a whimper that stirred something deep in Kael's chest. He had spent his career working with dangerous predators, training them for military applications, until the program went catastrophically wrong. He recognized pain when he saw it. "Looks like we're both a long way from where we're supposed to be," he said softly, taking off his pack and retrieving a medical kit. The creature's eyes followed his movements, wary but alert. Kael slowly extended his hand, palm down, the same way he approached nervous predators in training. To his surprise, the cub stretched its neck and sniffed, then recoiled, exhaustion overcoming fear. I'm going to help you, Kael said, knowing the words meant nothing to the creature but hoping his tone conveyed his intent. Then we'll figure out where you came from. He wrapped his jacket around his arm as a precaution and moved closer, tensing for an attack that never came. Instead, as he gently examined the broken leg, he felt something brush against his awareness, a sensation he'd never experienced before, like fingertips lightly touching the surface of his mind. An image flashed into his mind, a vast chamber of gleaming metal and stone, and a tall, regal figure with markings similar to the cub's. The vision vanished as quickly as it came, leaving Kael disoriented. What the hell was that? He whispered. The cub's eyes remained fixed on his, a strange intelligence behind them that sent a shiver down his spine. Whatever this creature was, it was far more than a simple animal. As he carefully splinted the broken leg, Kael made a decision he suspected he would come to regret. Let's get you home and patch you up, he said, gently lifting the surprisingly heavy cub. But first he retrieved a small incendiary charge from his pack, another remnant of his military days, and placed it inside the ship. Evidence of alien contact would bring the authorities to his sanctuary, and neither he nor his new charge needed that attention. As Kael carried the injured creature back to his dwelling, the scout ship erupted in flames behind him, erasing the evidence of its arrival. In his arms, the cub relaxed slightly, its breathing evening out against his chest. That night, as the sedative he administered took hold and the cub slept on his workshop floor, Kael sat watching it, unable to shake the feeling that his life had irrevocably changed. He dozed in his chair sometime before dawn, and for the first time in years, his dreams weren't filled with the screams of dying subordinates. Instead, he dreamed of amber eyes and a palace of stone and metal under 3 strange moons. 3 weeks passed since Kael brought the alien cub into his home. The creature's recovery continued to defy his expectations. The broken leg had begun to mend at an astonishing rate, and the gash on its flank had already sealed into a thin, silvery line. You're something special, aren't you? Kael murmured as he swapped the splint for a smaller brace. The cub watched him with those piercing amber eyes, alert and calculating. In the weeks since the crash, it hadn't tried to escape or attack, observing Kael's every move with an unnerving focus. It accepted food, raw meat from his stores and water, but kept a wary distance whenever possible. Kael had started calling her Lyra, though he couldn't explain why. The name simply felt right, as if it had been whispered to him in his increasingly vivid dreams of alien landscapes and distant stars. Easy, Lyra, he said as he finished securing the brace. Another week and you might not even need this anymore. The cub's ear twitched at the name, and Kael felt that familiar brush against his mind, faint but unmistakable. These moments had grown more frequent, usually when he spoke directly to her or when their eyes met for prolonged periods. A series of beeps from his comm console broke the moment. Kael stiffened. The monthly supply drone was due the next day, and that meant a routine check-in call from the colonial outpost. He glanced at Lyra, who had already retreated to the workshop corner where she had made her den with blankets he had provided. Stay, he whispered unnecessarily. The cub still didn't follow him around the property, preferring to remain hidden when not being tended to. Kael accepted the call, positioning himself to block any view of the workshop behind him. The supply coordinator's board perfunctory face appeared on the screen. Resident Kael Vance monthly welfare check. All systems nominal. All clear here, Kael replied, keeping his voice neutral. No issues to report. Supply drone due 0800 tomorrow. Any special requests? Nothing new. The coordinator nodded, already looking past this conversation to the next task. The Colonial Authority reminds all isolationist license holders that in-person quarterly psych evaluations are mandatory. Your next evaluation is due in 3 weeks. Kael's jaw tightened. The evaluations were the price of his solitude, a way for the authority to ensure frontier hermits weren't spiraling into dangerous instability. I'll be there. The call ended and Kael exhaled slowly. 3 weeks until he had to leave Lyra alone and travel to the outpost. The thought bothered him more than it should. A soft sound behind him made him turn. Lyra had emerged from her corner and was watching him, her head tilted in what looked remarkably like concern. It's nothing, he said, then wondered why he was reassuring an alien predator. That night, as Kael drifted to sleep, the connection that had been forming between them surged with unexpected intensity. His dreams were vivid impressions, the sensation of running on powerful 4 limbs, the taste of strange meats, the comfort of nestling against a larger version of Lyra. But underlying these experiences, There was something deeper, emotions and thought fragments that were decidedly not his own. He woke with a start, dawn light filtering through the window. Something felt different. Kael reached for his sidearm out of habit, then froze as he sensed a presence in the room. Lyra was at the foot of his bed, watching him with those intelligent eyes. She had never entered his sleeping quarters before. "How did you?" he began, then gasped as a clear, directed thought formed in his mind. Danger approaches. The voice, if it could be called that, was feminine, alien yet perfectly comprehensible. Kael sat up slowly, his heart hammering. "Did you just?" "Yes. Finally heard me. Took too long." Kael stared at the cub, his mind reeling. "You can communicate telepathically?" "Only with the bonded. You saved." "We bonded." "Bonded? What are you? Where did you come from?" Images and sensations flooded Kael's mind faster than he could process. Vast starships, a society of beings with both feline and humanoid features, and recurring images of a regal female figure seated on a throne of what looked like living metal. "I am Lyra, royal guardian to Empress Seraphina. Must hide. They seek." Kael went to the window and scanned the morning sky. Nothing seemed out of place, but he had learned to trust his instincts, and now apparently those of a telepathic alien predator. "Who's looking for you, Lyra?" Lyra moved closer to him, her movements more fluid than in previous days. Her recovery was progressing even faster than he had thought. "Some loyal, some traitor. Do not know which find first." "Great," Kael muttered. "Just when I thought my life couldn't get any more complicated." He felt a ripple of what felt like amusement from Lyra, followed by a surge of determination that resonated through their connection. "We protect you. You protected me." Kael looked at the alien cub, realizing with sudden clarity that his life of isolation had come to an end. Whatever Lyra was, wherever she came from, they were now linked in ways he was only beginning to understand. "Well," he said with resignation, "I guess we're in this together now." Lyra blinked in acknowledgement, and Kael felt the strangest sensation, like coming home after a long absence. "Again," Kael ordered, watching as Lyra navigated the makeshift obstacle course he'd built behind the property. The alien predator moved with increasing grace, her injured leg barely slowing her as she leaped barriers and ducked under suspended ropes. Another 2 weeks had passed, and Lyra's physical recovery was nothing short of miraculous. What was even more haunting to Kael was her intelligence. His military training with animals hadn't prepared him for a creature that could not only understand complex instructions, but anticipate them through their growing empathic bond. "Too easy," Lyra projected into his mind. "Challenge me." Kael grinned. "All right, show off. Try this." He activated a series of unpredictable motion sensors he'd repurposed from his security system. Lyra responded instantly, weaving through the randomized pattern with a preternatural awareness. Kael felt a phantom of her movements in his own muscles, their empathic connection allowing him brief sensory glimpses through her perception. "Incredible," he whispered later, as they shared a meal, raw meat for her, synthesized protein for him. Kael felt her curiosity probing his memories. "Why alone here? You trained many like me before?" "Not like you," Kael corrected. "Earth animals are less intelligent, though dangerous enough." He hesitated, then allowed the painful memory to surface. "There was an accident. The neural implants we used to enhance control, they failed. 3 handlers died when the subjects went berserk." Lyra's ears flattened against her head, sensing his guilt. "Not your fault. I designed the system," Kael said softly. "Their blood is on my hands." Lyra moved closer, pressing her warm body against his leg in a surprisingly comforting gesture. "Different now. Our bond natural. Better?" Kael reached down to stroke her head, a gesture she had only recently begun to tolerate. Through their connection, he felt her satisfaction mixed with weariness, a constant vigilance he now understood was part of her nature as a royal guardian. "Tomorrow the supply drone arrives," he said. "We need to keep you hidden. If the colonial authority finds out about you, I will hide. Always alert." As night fell, Kael couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. Their bond had strengthened enough that sometimes he couldn't distinguish between his intuition and Lyra's instincts. Either way, something was coming. Something that would change everything. Kael awoke to a strange warmth beside him. Half asleep, he reached out, expecting to feel Lyra's fur. His hand met soft, smooth skin. His eyes snapped open. Where the tiger-like cub had been, now lay a figure both alien and humanoid. She still bore the distinctive orange and black markings, but her form had elongated. Her face retained feline characteristics, the pointed ears, slitted pupils, and amber eyes, but the structure was now unmistakably feminine. A mane of fiery red hair fell down her back. Kael recoiled, tumbling off the bed in shock. She sat up, her movements fluid despite the transformation. Yes. Complete change. Aurana humanoid. Cub form for protection during growth. Kael struggled to process the revelation. You were never just an animal? Never animal. Royal guardian. Her eyes met his, communication flowing more easily through their empathic bond. Bond accelerated metamorphosis. Not expected so soon. Approaching cautiously, Kael studied her transformed features. The being before him matched the image from his dreams, an Aurana, part of an advanced species he had never encountered in any briefing unknown galactic civilizations. Why didn't you tell me? Could not. My mind too simple before metamorphosis. Through their connection, Kael felt the complexity of her thoughts now, strategic assessments, cultural knowledge, and something more personal, directed at him, something like affection, but deeper. The Empress, Kael said, remembering the recurring figure from their shared dreams. You mentioned her before. What are you exactly? Guardian. Companion. We bond from birth. Then why are you here? What happened? Lyra's expression darkened. Assassination attempt. Escaped with evidence. Crashed here. She reached out to him, her touch sending electricity through their bond. Kael felt her memories, the attack, her escape, the sabotage that damaged her ship. So the Empress thinks you're dead, unless the bond says otherwise. Kael's mind raced with implications. And now you've bonded with me. Lyra's lips curved into what was almost a smile. Not instead. Additionally. Unprecedented. Her hand remained in his, and through their connection flowed a new sensation, desire, complex and overwhelming. Kael pulled away, disturbed by the intensity. We need to figure out what happens next, he said, trying to regain focus. If someone's looking for you. A distant roar cut him off, the sound of engines breaking atmosphere. Too late, Lyra projected. They are here. Imperial hunters. Imperial hunters, Lyra whispered aloud, her first spoken words, husky from disuse. Her transformation had completed her vocal capabilities, along with her humanoid form. Kael peered through field binoculars at the sleek ship descending toward the colonial outpost, 10 miles away. How many? One tracker. Elite hunter. Lyra moved with newfound grace, donning clothes Kael had provided. Corvin. Loyal to Empress, but does not know truth. What truth? Lyra's eyes met his. Did not merely crash. I fled. The assassination attempt was an internal conspiracy. High Commander Zarak leads a coup against Empress Serafina. Her voice strengthened as she spoke. I witnessed the planning. Became target. Had to escape with evidence. Kael processed this revelation. So you're not just a pet. You're a witness. More. Lyra touched her temple. Guardian bond allows memory transfer. Perfect memory. Can prove conspiracy. Their connection flooded with images, secret meetings, whispered plans. Zarak's face twisted in ambition. But something else emerged through their bond, a sensation Kael hadn't expected. The empathic connection between us, he realized. It shouldn't be possible, should it? Possible with non-Aurana. Lyra's expression conveyed both wonder and alarm. Humans considered primitive species. Unworthy of contact. But you. The implications dawned on Kael. This changes their understanding of humans. It changes everything. Lyra confirmed. Threatens belief in Aurana superiority if humans capable of guardian bond. Outside, the distant hum of anti-grav engines grew louder. Corvin approaches. Tracking my signature. Kael made a quick decision. Then we need to move now. As they gathered essential supplies, Kael felt a new dimension to their bond forming, deeper, more intimate. When their hands brushed passing a pack, a jolt of electricity passed between them, unmistakably attraction. Lyra paused, her amber eyes fixed on his. The bond evolves between us. Different from royal bond. Kael knew what she meant. This was no longer just telepathy. This was becoming something dangerously close to love. The forest blurred around them as Kael pushed his all-terrain vehicle to its limit. Behind them, the distinctive hum of Veldari levitation technology steadily grew louder. Corvin won't stop, Lyra said, her arms wrapped around Kael's waist. The physical contact strengthened their bond, allowing him to sense the tracker's presence through her heightened perception. Elite hunters are enhanced for pursuit. They crested a hill, spotting a small settlement, the furthest human frontier outpost, where a dozen families eked out a living on Xylos Prime. Kael hadn't visited in months, preferring his isolation, but now they needed help. "Friends there?" Lyra asked, sensing his thoughts. "Not exactly." As they approached, a woman emerged from the largest structure, rifle raised. Lyra Vance, the unofficial leader of the settlement, had never approved of Kael's reclusive lifestyle. "Vance, is that you?" Her eyes widened as she saw Lyra. "What the hell is that?" "No time for proper explanations," Kael said, dismounting. "Imperial forces are coming." "Not friendly." Lyra's face hardened. "You brought aliens to our doorstep. They'd come anyway. We need shelter just until nightfall." Lyra stepped forward, her regal bearing evident despite the borrowed clothes. "I am Lyra, royal guardian to Empress Seraphina. The hunter pursues me, not humans." Lyra hesitated, then gestured to a storage cellar. "Inside. But if this goes wrong, Vance, I'm holding you responsible." As they hit, Kael felt Lyra's hand slide into his. Through their connection flowed not just strategic thoughts, but something warmer, more intimate. "The bond grows stronger," she murmured. "Soon irreversible." Kael turned to face her in the dim light. "Is that what you want?" Instead of an empathic reply, Lyra leaned in and pressed her lips to his, an unmistakably human gesture she must have gleaned from his memories. The kiss deepened their connection, sending shockwaves through their shared consciousness. Outside, the hum of levitation technology heralded Corvin's arrival, abruptly cutting the moment short. Together, Lyra projected into his mind. "We face this together." The Imperial Huntress moved like a liquid shadow through the settlement, her tracking gear glowing with Veldari technology. From their hiding place, Kael and Lyra watched through the mental link they now effortlessly shared. "Corvin was my training partner," Lyra whispered. "She will not harm innocents, but she will take anyone who aids us." As if to confirm her words, the tall Aurana female seized Lyra, demanding information. Kael felt guilt surge in his chest. "We can't let her suffer for us." Lyra nodded. "We fight together. The bond gives us advantage." Their strategy formed simultaneously through their shared consciousness. Kael would distract while Lyra circled behind. The perfect synchronization of their thoughts felt like an elaborate dance, prepared for years rather than days. They emerged from hiding, Kael shouting, "Looking for me, Corvin?" The Imperial Huntress spun around, releasing Lyra. Her amber eyes, so similar to Lyra's, widened in surprise. "Human. Where is the Royal Guardian?" "Right here," Lyra announced, appearing behind her former comrade. Corvin's expression shifted from shock to disgust. "You bonded with this primitive. You betrayed your Empress." "I protect Seraphina from true betrayal." Lyra's posture perfectly mirrored Kael's. Their movements harmonized through their connection. "High Commander Zarak's plans against her. I carry the proof." "He lies." Corvin snarled, but uncertainty flickered in her features. The fight erupted with blinding speed. Kael moved with enhanced reflexes, borrowed through the bond, while Lyra used her knowledge of human combat techniques. Together they formed a seamless unit, anticipating Corvin's every move. When the Imperial Huntress finally fell, Lyra pressed her hand to Corvin's temple, forcing a connection that made the Huntress gasp. "See the truth," Lyra commanded. Corvin's eyes widened as Lyra transferred the incriminating memories. "Zarak. He is already moving. The Empress comes personally to retrieve you," falling into his trap. Kael felt alarm pulse through their bond. "Then we must reach her first." The Veldari transport ship sliced through Xylos Prime's atmosphere, Corvin's codes granting them access. In the co-pilot seat, Kael wrestled with the intensity of emotions flowing through their bond. Lyra's determination mixed with fear for the Empress, creating a storm he could barely withstand. The flagship approaches, Corvin announced from behind them. The Imperial Huntress had reluctantly allied herself with them after witnessing Zarak's treachery. Empress Seraphina commands personally. Kael felt Lyra's conflict, her duty to her Empress warring with her growing affection for him. Their bond had deepened beyond mere empathy into something unexplored between their species. "She will feel our connection," Lyra said softly. "No Guardian has ever bonded with a non-Aurana. Will she try to break it?" "She cannot. Only death severs a true Guardian bond." Lyra's hand found his, fingers intertwining. But she may separate us physically. As they neared the massive Aurana flagship, Kael absorbed the technological marvel through Lyra's knowledge, a vessel housing thousands, representing a power beyond anything humanity had achieved. The comm chimed. On the screen, a regal Aurana female appeared, her markings more elaborate than Lyra's, her posture unmistakably sovereign. Guardian Empress Seraphina's voice was melodious but commanding. You have formed an unsanctioned bond. Majesty, Lyra bowed her head. I bring a warning and proof of High Commander Zarak's treachery. The Empress's gaze shifted to Kael. And this human? Kael felt Lyra's fierce protectiveness surge through their connection. He saved me. Our bond formed naturally and reveals new understanding of human potential. Bring him, the Empress ordered. I would witness this anomaly myself. As soon as the transmission ended, Kael turned to Lyra. Words were unnecessary between them now. He pulled her close, their foreheads touching, their minds merging completely in a moment of perfect unity. Whatever comes, he projected, we face it together. Her reply flowed through him like warm honey. Always. The imperial throne room stretched before them, vast and gleaming with bioluminescent technology beyond human comprehension. Kael walked beside Lyra, their steps perfectly synchronized through their bond. Imperial guards watched with thinly veiled distaste at the sight of a human moving with such confidence among them. Empress Seraphina sat on a living throne that subtly shifted with her movements, her amber eyes, more golden than Lyra's, missing nothing. Approach, Guardian. Bring your companion. Kael felt caution as they neared the throne. Through their connection, he sensed other presences, including one simmering with ill-contained rage. Zarak, Lyra projected, to the left of the throne. He suspects we know. High Commander Zarak stepped forward, his markings darker than most Aurana, his posture military. Majesty, I must insist on isolation protocols. The human presence threatens security. You fear what he knows, Lyra challenged, her voice echoing through the chamber. What I have shown him of your plans. The tension snapped as Zarak lunged, not at them, but at the Empress, a concealed weapon appearing in his hand. Kael and Lyra moved as one, their bond allowing for perfect coordination. Kael tackled the commander while Lyra placed herself before her sovereign. The guards hesitated, confused by the chaos, until the Empress's voice cut through the air. Protect the human. He defends us. The brief battle ended with Zarak subdued, his conspirators revealed by their own reactions. Throughout, Kael and Lyra moved in perfect harmony, their bond allowing them to anticipate every attack before it came. When calm returned, the Empress studied them with new interest. Perhaps, she said thoughtfully, we have misjudged humanity's potential. The three sons of Xylos Prime cast long shadows across Kael's property, now transformed into the first official Aurana human diplomatic outpost. 6 months had passed since the confrontation aboard the Imperial flagship. 6 months of profound change for both species. Kael stood on the porch, watching as Lyra demonstrated combat techniques to a mixed group of human and Aurana students. Their bond had become the object of intense scientific study, revealing capabilities previously thought impossible between different species. Still adjusting to celebrity status? Empress Seraphina asked, approaching the newly constructed landing pad where her ship awaited. Some days better than others, Kael admitted. The Empress had proven surprisingly adaptable, recognizing the potential advantage of human-Aurana cooperation rather than resisting it. The bond you share with Lyra continues to evolve, she observed. Our scientists remain perplexed. Kael smiled, feeling Lyra's awareness turn to him, even as she continued her demonstration. Their connection now spanned vast distances, defying previous limitations of guardian bonds. Not everything needs scientific explanation, Majesty. The Empress made a sound suspiciously like laughter. Perhaps that is humanity's greatest gift to us, embracing the inexplicable. After the Empress departed, Lyra joined Kael on the porch, her movements fluid and graceful in her Aurana form. Through their bond flowed contentment and something deeper that no human or Aurana language could fully express. The first diplomatic contingent from the Earth High Assembly arrives tomorrow, she said, leaning into him. Nervous? With you by my side, never. Kael looked out at the frontier landscape, where his isolated exile had transformed into the center of a new era. The future stretched before them, unexplored, yet full of possibilities, much like the bond they shared. Lyra turned to face him, her amber eyes gleaming in the diminishing light. No words were needed as she pulled him close, their minds merging in that perfect synchronicity that once seemed impossible. Human and Aurana, guardian and protector, Separate beings made one through a connection that had redefined what was possible between worlds. Together, their shared thought resonated as the stars began to appear above. Always together. The forest air pulsed with energy as Lyra spun, her amber eyes gleaming like molten gold. "They are still watching," she said aloud, her voice sharper now in her humanoid form. "Even after Zarak fell, his spies remain. Some loyal to the old order." Kael tightened the strap of his shoulder harness, settling his rifle across his back. "Are you sure it's not just paranoia?" Their bond pulsed with certainty. "Not paranoia. Confirmation. 2 Aurana heat signatures on the ridge, 2 clicks east. Watching since dawn." Kael groaned. So much for a quiet diplomatic outpost. Lyra placed herself beside him, the subtle sheen of her Aurana armor catching the light. Unlike before, her presence was a beacon, not a secret. "No more hiding," she said firmly. "If they wish to test the bond's strength, we will show them why that is a mistake." Kael grinned. "Thought you'd never say that." They moved as one, traversing the clearing with practiced coordination. No orders exchanged, every step, glance and breath synchronized through their connection. By the time they reached the crest, the Watchers had already retreated, leaving behind a carved obsidian shard buried in the earth. Lyra knelt, her fingertips brushing the surface. "Fractured Fong splinter," she whispered. "Exiles loyal to no empress. Assassins for hire." Kael crouched beside her. "Even worse, fanatics." Her voice lowered. "They kill any bonded outside the Aurana bloodline." A low growl rumbled in her throat, not animal but protective. Kael felt her anger coil like a serpent behind his sternum. "You think they're testing us?" he asked. "No," Lyra said, rising. "They are hunting us." A beat passed. Kael dusted off his hands and stood. "Then let's hunt first." Night fell quickly on Xylos Prime. The 3 moons crept into the sky, casting overlapping shadows through the forest. Kael and Lyra crouched on opposite flanks of a narrow ravine. They had tracked the mercenaries to a makeshift camp nestled under a natural rock formation. 2 figures, both Aurana, both armored in matte black plating, sat around a holomap projecting the surrounding region. Lyra's voice drifted into Kael's mind. "Standard scan pattern. Lazy. They underestimate us. Good. Let's keep it that way." She moved first, silent, fluid, deadly. Her claws extended with a gleam of blue light. Kael moved in like a shadow, rifle raised and loaded with stun rounds tuned to Aurana physiology. The first mercenary didn't even see him coming, a blur of motion. Lyra hit him with a brutal shoulder check, claws raking his chest plate as she slammed him to the ground. The second spun, raising his plasma blade, just as Kael opened fire. The impact threw him off balance enough for Lyra to pivot and deliver a precise elbow strike to the jaw. The mercenary dropped heavily. Kael approached cautiously, keeping his rifle aimed. "Alive?" "Barely." She pinned the second mercenary with a knee and pressed 2 fingers to his temple, linking. Kael watched her eyes shimmer with light. Lyra's lips parted slightly, her body rigid. Then she pulled back, gasping. "What did you see?" he asked. Her gaze met his. "They aren't just hunting us. They are bait." Kael stiffened. "For whom?" Lyra's voice was strained with fury. "Another guardian." The last glimmer of twilight died behind the ridge as Kael and Lyra crept towards the shallow clearing. 3 moons cast fragmented light through the undergrowth. Every snap resonated with distant weapon fire. There in the center stood a single Aurana guardian, tall, armed with twin phase blades, radiating authority and lethal intent. His white and silver armor reflected the starlight like a herald's banner. "Lyra," Kael murmured, tightening his grip on his rifle. "Do you know him?" She stiffened, the orange and black markings flickering in the dim light. "Katar, my mentor." Then to Kael, softly, "He hunts bonded guardians who break tradition." "Ketars, the guardians," Amber Eyes found them instantly. "You defied the Empress. You dishonored the Order." His voice was steel and velvet. "Surrender." Lyra straightened, her cloak swirling. "I serve the Empress, old friend, but I will not stand by as a coup ravages our people." Before Katar could respond, Kael surged forward, rifle raised. "Last warning. Leave her alone." Ketar's blades came alive in a single graceful motion. He surged forward, dancing across the ground in a series of silent steps. Kael fired a stun round, but the projectile failed against the Guardian's personal shield. Katar leaped forward, phase blades slicing the air with rare elegance. Kael dove aside as arcs of energy seared the earth where he had stood. Lyra burst forward beside him, claws bared. Kael, left flank. She projected simultaneously. She feigned a strike to the right, pulling a blade across her hip. Kael blocked with the other, sparks flying. The telepathic bond between guardian and bondage shimmered. Kael felt every nuance of Lyra's intent. The weight of her blow, the rhythm of her breath, the sharp pain of a shield burn on her side. In that moment, the fight ceased. Lyra pressed the blade to Kael's throat, but her eyes met his, soft with regret. I fight you only to save us all. There is proof of Zarak's treachery in my mind. You must see it. Kael froze, muscles bunched. Slowly he nodded. Lyra disengaged, stepping back. She reached out, touching his temple with two slender fingers. A flash of light blossomed between them, a transfer of images, memories, betrayals. Kael watched the guardian's face as it twisted, first in shock, then in dawning horror. When Lyra pulled back, his ragged breath misted the night air. He knows. Kael staggered, lowering his blades. Zarak, High Commander Zarak. He plans to ambush the Empress at Val Outpost. Torch it. Kill all witnesses. He sank to one knee, his gaze fixed on the forest floor. I was blind. I failed her. Brandon knelt beside Kael, offering his hand. Then help us fix it. Lyra placed a hand on Kael's shoulder. Through their bond, Kael felt the guardian's shame and his newfound resolve. We move at once, she said. The outpost is 15 clicks north. His strike teams arrive in less than 2 hours. Kael rose, staggering, pulling a data crystal from his armor. He handed it to Kael. All codes, drone patrols, hidden turrets. It will get you inside. Kael slid the crystal into his field console. Understood. He stood, dusting off his pants. We leave in 10. Lyra nodded. Take what you need. They gathered equipment from a fallen patrol, compact grappling hooks, energy grenades, comm jammers. Silence fell as they prepared. Each knew the stakes. Finally, as Kael shouldered his rifle and Lyra tested the weight of her phase blades, Kael spoke. My loyalty is to the Empress. Yours is to each other. And through his bond to all Aurana. His voice trembled. May the moons guide you. They slipped from the clearing like ghosts, Kael leading, Kael guiding Lyra, merging with the shadows. The forest closed behind them, but beyond, the fate of an empire awaited,